Today's episode of Passionate Talk is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audio download and 30-day free trial at books.passionatetalk.com. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Get your 30-day free trial and free audiobook at books.passionatetalk.com. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Passionate Talk. I am your host, Gary Karp, and this is episode number 27. Today is the second part of my conversation with Todd LeBouf, and we're going to pick it up where we left off on Monday, talking about free will versus predetermination. We're also going to discuss astral projection and time travel, and Todd is going to share some stories of the times he did astral project and managed to travel throughout time. This story gave me goosebumps when I heard it. He's also going to talk to us a little bit about how he performs Reiki and that Reiki can be done via distance. It doesn't have to be an in-person, hands-on energy healing, which surprised me because I always thought that Reiki was a hands-on endeavor. Finally, we're going to discuss the importance of trust and higher self-knowledge and listening to that higher self-knowledge. So right now, I want you to sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, maybe some tea, and get ready to listen to the rest of my conversation with Todd.
Absolutely. We always have free will. We can choose what we want to do and what we don't want to do. But there is also an element in that we know what's right within ourselves. We just know.
Okay, could you talk a little bit more about how we know that?
Well, it's kind of hard to explain for me. I just have that knowing and, what feels right. It's the intuition within ourselves. I have extremely high intuition, I just know when something's right and what, how to move forward and yes, to do this. And every time I ignore my intuition, I end up getting in trouble or having a regret that, I didn't follow my inner, voice.
Okay, so for me, and it seems to be, and I'm trying to match what you were saying with this interpretation or with this definition, free will, it's sort of, for me, it's a combination that we determine our lives are, and I don't want to use the word fate, and if I do use it, it's in air quotes, even though this is a podcast. People just imagine me making air quotes with my fingers. That we meet people like you and I met on another plane in that source area, and we decided to come down. But during the course of our lives, we can decide to go away from what we're choosing to do. Meaning, I believe I was always meant to do this work in one way, shape, or form, to coach people, to teach people about themselves, and to step into their power and to fulfill their dreams and passions. You believe you are a healer, and that is your course. For many years, I chased the dollar, okay? I was the suit and tie guy sitting in the corner office of Madison Avenue, overlooking Young and Rubicam, power positions, the whole 9 yards. And that was not aligned with my inner knowledge because it was not aligned with what I decided I wanted my life to be, what I wanted to experience when I was source, okay, when I was part of that source. And it's kind of difficult to explain because you are right. This is a really esoteric conversation here. And
I think it's personal to everybody. They have their own, it depends on how their path works out. I mean, we all have our own determination of where we're going to go. So I think it's very personal to every individual.
I guess the larger question is if we determine or what we choose to experience in this life and who we choose to experience it with, then how could anything really be free will? It may seem as if we're off the garden path to what our true purpose is, but did we really decide that at an earlier point in the energy plane?
Very true. It's very possible. I see what you're saying, Gary. Well, my thoughts are again, I think it's just individual, up to the individual as far as their course of their life or their blueprint. It's very hard to explain it. I can't explain it.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, part of the reason I love this format in this podcast that I'm doing is that we're talking about subjects that are not normally talked about in day out conversation,
Right.
and it's meant to for those people who listen to plant a seed or to get them to think. So if you can't answer it, that's good, and I would say to you and invite you to think about the fact that if you can't answer, it's maybe because you haven't asked the question to yourself, that you just took it on faith. And faith is a wonderful thing, but maybe by exploring it, you can open yourself up a little bit more to the grandeur and the awesomeness of that universe, and maybe take your abilities to that next level just by asking the question.
That's very true, and thank you for pointing that out.
I also see that I know we spoke on the pre-interview that you did a lot of traveling as a youth. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, you're talking about the astral travel?
Ye- yes,
Yes.
that you have astral traveled, and this was part of your. I guess it was part of your journey when you just came to the awakening that you are a healer and that you are a spiritual being. So, talk to us about that astral traveling that you did.
Well, actually, the astral travel started when I was a young child. I just thought, this is pretty cool. I could travel. I didn't know at that point, being a young child, if this was a dream, if this was real or not. And, I kind of kept it to myself. I didn't really say anything to my family or anything like that. And one day I was playing with a neighborhood kid, and I mentioned it to them, and I thought this was normal for everyone. And they looked at me like I had three heads, and I was like, okay, this is not, typical for everyone. So I basically shut it down, and it wasn't until I awakened and started doing Reiki, which is an aspect of Reiki where we can do distance Reiki. We can send Reiki energy to other people, other living things in the world. So that's when I started the astral travel, opened that back up again, because it came in very handy for doing the distance Reiki. So, I would actually place myself, go to them, and actually do the session as if I were there physically.
Now,
So,
I've always believed in the one or two Reiki sessions that I have had was always a hands-on, same room experience. I had a conversation with a woman a few weeks ago about she was a reconnective healer. And the difference, she said, in reconnective healing as opposed to other energy modalities and healing modalities such as Reiki is that reconnective healing works on a frequency as opposed to an energy. It's a sound wave as opposed to a light wave, I guess is the way to define it. And therefore, it can be done through distance. You are really the first Reiki healer that I have met and experienced that says that Reiki can be done at a distance. Can you explain a little bit about the difference about being in the room with the person as opposed to a distance healing?
well, there again, just when you send the Reiki distance, it's sending the vibration and the energy through, the earth planes, through the physical universe. And it's all set by intention in your mind. When you start the intention of Reiki, you think about the person who's asked for the Reiki to receive the Reiki energy, and you set that intention, and a Reiki energy flows where it needs to go. And 9 times out of 10, I've had people say to me, "Wow, I feel so much better." So it's amazing how in the distance realm how that works.
So it would seem to me that everything we've talked about so far as your energy work and your spiritual awakening, is solely based on intention.
Yes,
That the intention was greater than the actual practice because the intention that you set was the driving force.
yes,
So
exactly.
how could people set their intention if somebody is looking to, and I'm going to expand it beyond the energy realm, beyond the spiritual realm, because to me intention is one of the goals to everything. You need to keep an intention in the front of your head if you want to have a goal, whether that goal is to start a business, whether that goal is to be in a healthy relationship, whether that goal is to open up your energy and become more spiritually aware. So if anyone is sitting there and they're having issues reaching a goal, whatever that goal is, and they're having an issue setting their intentions, what advice would you give them to do this?
I would advise people to get into a very quiet area. It could be in nature or it could be in their own living room. Sit quietly and go within themselves and think about what it is that the issues they're dealing with, or whatever they are looking to do, and just think about it and feel it and just set that intention that you're already there, that you've already fix the problem, or ask your inner self for answers on how to fix the problem or how to move forward with what it is you're looking to do. And then just meditate on that. And when you listen within, you're going to get answers to what you're looking for from your higher self.
That's very true. And I also do believe that sitting by yourself, and people call it meditation, they call it prayer, they call it they call it anything they want, and that really is what it is. No matter how you label it, sitting in quiet contemplation with yourself. You don't have to go into that Zen area. Just sit, breathe. I would recommend concentrating and focusing on your breath. Really will allow you to be in touch with your inner self and calm you down and allow you to explore who you are on the inside, which will affect, when you know that and you're clear on it, who you are on the outside.
Exactly. Because when you connect with your higher self knows the answers. But our physical self is so affected by all the energies of the world, everyday life, and technology, and so on and so forth. So we're kind of pulled away. So when we get in that quiet space, we get in alignment and listen to within, to our higher self, it will give us the answers.
So you mentioned before that our physical self is, I'm going to use the word bombarded by a whole bunch of external things. We've got the signal to noise ratio, especially in today's world, is incredible because we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got social media, and then we go outside and we've got the subway, the cars, the business, the stress, the this, that, and they all have an effect on our body physically.
Yes.
And how would you recommend detoxing the physical body? We know we can sit and be quiet and meditate and sort of reconnect to our higher self and our higher power. But another part of that is making sure the physical body is also, and I don't want to use the word pure, but that it is receptive. So do you have any tips or strategies for detoxing the physical body so it lets go of all the blech, here's a technical term for you, blech,
right. Yep.
from the world that it gets? How would you recommend to purify, for lack of a better term, the physical body?
Well, I'm going to give some tips of what I do, and when I get to the point where my physical body has filled up with all this junk or black, as you call, I find myself going to the water and sitting by the shore and just sitting and being quiet and just letting the wind and the I don't necessarily have to be in the water, but just the wind comes across the water and you have that nice smell of negative ions, and just let it cleanse my physical being, and just sit and just decompress. And then once I've felt like I've decompressed, I recharge with all that great energy from there. Another way is to go for a walk in nature. Just go for a hike, just even by yourself, and just decompress that way. Or go for a bike ride just by yourself. Or exercise is a great tool to release a lot of that, as you call. So those are a few of my tips.
Now, yeah, that's a real technical term here. For all my certifications, I use the word blech.
I think it's kind of cool.
Now, I just want to go back to the astral projection, because I know when we were talking the pre-interview, you mentioned you time traveled not only astrally, but through time. And you told a very interesting story about a woman in a white dress. Could you share that a little bit with us?
Sure. There again, I can't explain where this comes from, but I had some friends that were coming down to visit from Vermont, and they have a 10-year-old son, and they were just going to be here for a couple of days. And I thought, well, where can I take them where everyone, including their 10-year-old son, would enjoy going to? So I came up with the idea of going to a museum up in the Thousand Islands called Bolt Castle. And so they arrived, and I said, "Hey, we're gonna go do this." And of course, their 10-year-old son was like, "Oh wow, a castle! That's cool." So I thought, great. So we got up the next morning. We got up to the castle, and of course, the thing in an island in the middle of the Thousand Islands in the St. Lawrence River. So you have to take a ferry over, and we got onto the grounds, and the castle was built by Mr. Bolt many years ago for his wife, and his wife had passed away, and he stopped the construction was not complete, and he stopped it. So the building sat vacant for many years, and over the years, I guess I don't know how many years ago, but the Thousand Islands Bridge Authority purchased the property, and they've been restoring it under the restoration thing. So they've been doing a beautiful job in restoring the grounds in the castle. And we were walking around the grounds, and we go up to the castle, we go into the vestibule, and of course they have all these pictures of the family hanging there. So I'm gonna back up 2 days prior. I was at work, and we were all around the secretary's desk during break, and we were talking, and the secretary says to me, "Well, what's going on for you this weekend?" And I told her that we were going to Bolt Castle, and she kind of, in a joking way, said to me, "Well, I wonder who's floating around up there," because she knew of my ability. And out of my mouth comes, "Well, there's a lady in a long white dress with a white umbrella." And we all laughed. So back to the vestibule with all the pictures, I'm looking from the right, going to the left, and I get to the last picture, and there was the lady in a long white dress with a white umbrella.
Oh my God! Now, did you freak out when this happened?
I didn't freak out, but I just sat there in awe, wow, okay. And I laughed, and I took a picture of the picture, and texted it to my friend, the secretary, and she comes back to me, and she texts me back, and she said, "That's so scary. How do you do that?" And I just don't know. It is.
For me, when I first started to develop this ability, and I'm not going to call it psychic ability, I don't know what it is. I wanted so much to figure out why I was doing it, how I was doing it. It was the type A OCD part of my brain kicking in. And I discovered that the more I tried to figure out how I did it, the less effective I became.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that to be true with your Reiki work or with your intuition, that the more you try to figure it out and put a logical definition to it, the less effective you are with your gifts?
I kind of go the other way with it, in that I never question it. I just go with it. I've learned that, particularly with my intuition and my empathic abilities, I've integrated all that, and I just never question it. I keep open to whatever comes my way, and I work with it as it comes.
To me, that's incredible, because I've got to know every niggly detail of everything, and the idea of just going, "Well, okay, it happened. I got it. Let's keep moving on."
I'm a Virgo, so I have to. I used to be that way. I always had to figure out how things ticked. And since I've gotten into this type of work, I just don't question, and nothing ever ceases to amaze me what can happen if you're open.
That is definitely true. The more open you are to just accepting the gifts of the universe, which are really gifts that you're giving yourself, because we are one. The universe is us, and we are the universe.
I agree.
Incredible things will happen, and even though I know this, I still live in my head. So would you have any advice for me and anybody else who have that live in head problem? Because I know there are people out there that are listening to this podcast. Maybe they're developing their psychic ability. Maybe they're taking their journey into Reiki or to tarot or some other esoteric art or energy healing. And they want to really know beyond what they're learning in the lessons, beyond what's going on in the books, that experientially is not enough. They need to know the hows and the whys. Would you have any advice where they can just accept it? The best advice you can give them to just say, hey, it's not important how. You don't need to know how electricity works to turn on a light switch. Just chill.
Yes. I know this is a hard word for everybody, myself included, but I have learned to trust. I trust the universe. I trust divine source. I trust life force energy. And this is one of the biggest things that when you learn in Reiki is, you trust. And when we try to question, things are not going to come forth. But if you trust and be open to what comes forth, the validation will be there. Things will come to light, and you will learn a lot more just by being open-minded to what comes to you.
That is wonderful advice that I am trying to take. I will be the first to admit I've got a long road on that journey. So for you, is there a difference in trust and faith, or is it just a semantical thing?
I think it's a little bit of both. I have faith in my trust, trusting what comes my way, and I find that things go much smoother when you just let go and just trust. That's what works for me.
Okay. Well, Todd, I do want to thank you very much for spending some time with us. And right now, I want to give you the floor. We know that you are one of the authors that's going to be featured in the Success Works 40 Stories of a Journey to the Top. But how else could people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you and have some Reiki work done, or they want to talk to you about any of your modalities? How could they reach out and get in touch with you?
Well, they could reach out to me through my website, which is mbsr61 digit61.com. So that's M as in Mary, MBSR, M as in Mary, B as in boy, S as in Sam, R as in Ralph, 61.com. I'm also on all social medias, Facebook. I have a personal page as well as a business page. And I am on Twitter and Instagram, Pinterest, and also LinkedIn.
So is there a blog that people can go to and read up about you and your ideas on Reiki? Is that part of your website?
Yes, I have. I write blogs for a Consciously Awesome program, and so I put those blogs as well on my website.
Very cool. So, folks, if you do want some Reiki work and you are not in upstate New York, and I'm going to say Syracuse, so am I right?
Yeah, I'm about 45 minutes northwest of Syracuse, right on the shore of Lake Ontario.
Oh, okay. So you're way up there. You're closer to Canada than you are to New York.
Yep. Probably 6 1, half dozen the other. So, Gary, I'd like to share a little quote that I found that is on my Facebook page, my personal page.
Go for it.
That I really live by, and it's so true. And it goes, when you are your authentic self, you fulfill the dream that lives in your soul.
That is wonderful. When you are your authentic self, you fulfill the dream that lives in your soul. I usually ask people for one word of advice, and I've been doing that sporadically throughout this conversation because you've had some wonderful advice to give. But I think that quote right there will call your one word of advice, your one piece of advice, because that quote is absolutely wonderful.
It is.
Todd,
it is.
I do want to thank you for taking some time with me today, and we will talk again soon, and have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you, Gary, for having me. I very much enjoyed this, and you have a wonderful day as well.
That was a fantastic conversation I had with Todd. He dropped truth nuggets on us up, down, left, and right. The advice he gave us on the importance of setting your intention, the advice that he gave us on detoxing our physical system and de-stressing our physical system, getting out in nature, sitting in quiet contemplation, taking a bike ride or a hike, or simply just sitting by the water and letting those negative ions breathe in and detoxify our system and recharge us. That was some wonderful, wonderful information that he gave us. The stories he told about astral projecting as a child and then realizing that this was not normal behavior. I think all of us have had a time in our life when we were younger and we discovered that we had talents or gifts that were not normal, and we pushed them down, just like Todd did, until we were strong enough to live authentically and give in to our feelings and be real. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for this episode of Passionate Talk. So until next Monday, follow your dreams and passions and manifest the life that you choose. Hey folks, it's Gary. 2018 is right around the corner, and a new year means a new you. Right now, you could pick up a free copy of my best-selling book, Clarity is Power, The 5 Steps to Creating Empowering Goals That Will Excite and Inspire You, by visiting books.passionatetalk.com. In Clarity is Power, you'll learn the 5 steps for designing and achieving your goals in the next year. So visit books.passionatetalk.com and pick up your free copy of Clarity is Power. You'll also receive a free 30-day trial to audible.com.